Hello everyone, with this week, with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out, we're going to be doing all the retrospective reviews for the movies in the build-up to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So let's get into it. So yes, this week is going to be all about the Planet of the Apes movies. Now granted, the older ones, I'm not going to be reviewing those. I'm going to be doing a tier ranking for all those movies, along with the most recent ones this weekend, so keep an eye out on the channel for that one. But in terms of like retrospective style reviews, it's mostly just going to be about the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn, and the War of the Planet of the Apes, just because there's not enough time to review all the movies right now. Granted, I should have planned better, that's on me, so I apologize about that. But if you are new to the channel, we are on our goal to try and reach 500 subscribers by the summertime. So if you do like this type of content, do consider hitting that subscribe button. I recently just posted my Parish TV series review, the one starring Giancarlo Esposito. So if you want to hear my thoughts about that, I'll post that somewhere around here. You can also go on the channel to check that out. But in terms of this movie, if you have seen the movie, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Were you a fan of this movie? What are your thoughts overall? Let me know in the comment section below. Because in terms of this movie, I really enjoyed this. I remember watching it first time when it came out and loving this movie. And then rewatching it once again, such a blast with this movie. Because with this movie, it opens up with a forest setting. You see these apes getting captured. They're being taken to this lab. And then you get this amazing transition. And I've got to say, because this movie hasn't been directed by Matt Reeves. So this is the Matt Reeves trilogy because he does direct Dawn of the Apes and then the War of the Planet of the Apes. But I want to give a shout out to the director of this movie, who is called Rupert Wyatt. He did a fantastic job, especially towards that third act and the bridge sequence, which we'll get into. The shots in this movie looked absolutely stunning. So he really did a fantastic job portraying and starting off this trilogy. I really wanted to give him a shout out because I know Matt Reeves directed the other two and those are amazing movies, but this one equally as good. So this transition you get from the ape's face going into the lab where these apes are getting experimented on, and you see this ape doing these intelligent tests with the toys. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were calling, but this ape was just like switching these rings very quickly. And that's where we get introduced to the scientist, James Franco's character. So he sees the intelligence, he sees that this ape is becoming really intelligent with the experiments and the tests that they are putting on her. And so he goes to his boss, the CEO of this company, asking to get approval to start trials on human testing, but because the drug that he was using on this ape to increase her intelligence is supposedly what's going to help to cure Alzheimer's disease. So he has this big board meeting, he's doing his presentation, talking about the benefits and what's going to happen to the human brain with this disease. And that's when in the background you're seeing this ape get taken out of her little habitat, her little cage, and that's when shit hits the fan. She starts attacking, going crazy. She ends up crashing into the board meeting where James Franco's character is giving his speech about the intelligence and about the drug that this ape has got. But of course it's just backfired because this ape is going ballistic, crashing the party. A guard ends up shooting this ape, killing her, and obviously the board completely disapproves his drug to be used on human trials because of like the situation that happens. But that's where we find out that the ape was actually pregnant and was only trying to protect her baby, but this ape dies. The baby is now left in the hands of Will, James Franco's character, to have to look after now. And so we get this transition of this dynamic between, you've got Will, James Franco's character, you see the baby who they call it Caesar, and then you also see Will's dad, who's being played by John Lithgow's character, who also has been displaying signs of Alzheimer's. So you get this just dynamic between the three of them, of Caesar growing up, learning, adapting. He's got the gene from the drug that was on his mother. So you see this transition of Caesar growing up. So like 3 years have passed as he's getting more intelligent. They've built this sort of like monkey playground thingy in the attic where Caesar's growing up and learning and living. And Will actually takes this drugs because he sees his dad's health deteriorating. He takes a drug that was actually used on the apes, steals it, takes it home to actually use on his dad, where it actually works. Like his Alzheimer's gets cured, he gets more intelligent, he starts understanding his surroundings, because before he kind of was like disillusioned because of the whole Alzheimer's disease. And then that's where we also get introduced to the female character who's being played by Freida Pinto, because Caesar at one point tries to interact with like the neighbor's kids, but then the dad freaks out and actually hits him with a bat. He gets an injury, so they take him to the vet, which is the female character, Caroline's character. That's where Will and Caroline kind of like hit it off. And then you get this transition once again of like Caesar growing up. So you get like a really fast-paced introduction of Caesar, and then growing up you see this Tarzan sort of sequence where they take him to like the forest's woods, where he's like swinging around the tree, and we've come to find out that it's been 5 years. So 3 years from when Will takes Caesar, and then 5 years from that moment, so like around 8 years now that Caesar has gone from the lab to Will's home. And so after like a small interaction with Caesar and this dog, Caesar's asking Will if he's like a pet, which Will's character explains that he's not a pet, but he gives him the backstory. So he takes him to like the laboratory where he shows him and tells him what happened to his mother and where he comes from. So that's where Caesar finds out about his backstory. And then we're switching, because this movie sort of switches between like the storyline of Will and his dad, and also like the storyline with the character arc of Caesar and where he's going. So when it comes to Will's dad, he's actually noticing that he's sort of slowly going back into like his older state. The Alzheimer's are kicking in, his health is deteriorating once again, because there's one sequence where he starts going outside. He ends up going into like the neighbor's car and starts just driving it back and forth, hitting the car from behind, hitting the car from the front, and of course the neighbor just freaks out. He's yelling how he's a pilot, he needs to get to work planting the seeds, because there are a lot of seeds were planted to the build up of what's going to happen in the future movies. So he's actually a pilot, he's freaking out. He's the same neighbor that hit Caesar with a bat earlier on in the movie, and so he's freaking out, and Caesar sees this and he flips his shit. He runs out, he starts beating the crap out of the neighbor, biting his finger off. So just shit hits the fan all over. And because of that whole sequence, Caesar is now being led to this animal control center where like they have all the apes stored in there, like in cages and that kind of stuff. And that's where you see like a really emotional, like I haven't even mentioned this too, but Andy Serkis is the one who plays Caesar, and he does an incredible job throughout the whole trilogy with the signs of emotion, like the facial expressions. Even this portion here when he's like saying goodbye, when Will and Caroline are leaving him in his shelter, you just see the emotion in his face. And that's what I love about this movie, is that it just looks absolutely incredible visually with the performances that Andy Serkis does as Caesar. So now we see Caesar's life on the inside. You see it kind of like a prison sequences where the food is just slop. Well, not the inmates, but the other apes, just how they're treating him, because he's coming in with like a sweater and jeans, and all of them are kind of like butt-ass naked. So you see him getting picked on, you see him being like the new inmate treatment that he's getting from the rest of the apes while he's in this shelter. And that's where you also get introduced to Tom Felton's character, Malfoy, if you're a Harry Potter fan. He's sort of the security guard that kind of abuses these apes, so we get introduced to his character. And then meanwhile on the human side of things here, so you've got the dad's health really deteriorating. James Franco is trying to tell the boss he wants to start using the drugs, he wants to try and work on a cure. That's where we get introduced to Koba's character. Now him, you got to keep an eye out on him in the next movie, but we'll talk about that when we start reviewing that movie. So he's being brought in to be experimented on so that the drugs, they can start using it on humans again. But then while they're doing these experiments, an incident occurs. Koba knocks one of the pipes, the gas starts getting exposed, so that one of the scientists or one of the doctors, his mask gets removed, he gets exposed to like the gas before he starts putting it on. And then in terms of his, I'm just going to deal with that storyline first. His storyline is that he ends up inhaling some of the gas, so then throughout the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, he actually starts coughing up blood, he starts getting sick. And so when he's going to like Will's apartment or Will's house, he actually infects the pilot, the neighbor, by sneezing on him and pouring his blood on him. And that's what really starts the virus, which again we'll talk about in the next movie. But his storyline is that he ends up dying because it all originated from him getting exposed to the gas. And in terms of Caesar, he realizes, because once he speaks to Will, as Will comes to visit him, he realizes that he's not going to come back, he's not going home. So he starts working on a plan to escape by using the surroundings and the sequences where he uses everything that he can, what he's witnessing, what he's watching, to try and plan his escape. Even at one point, one of Malfoy's friends comes, he's trying to impress them. The guy comes to confront Caesar, but then Caesar ends up like grabbing his shirt, but uses that as a distraction to steal his pocket knife. And that's where he goes to the play area, where he goes and speaks to the big gorilla that has been in this cage this whole time. So he gets him and the person that was actually bullying him trying to work together so that they can work on escaping all together, all the apes here. And that's where we see Will's dad passing away. He rejects the treatment, he doesn't want to go through that anymore, so he ends up just slowly dying with Will, sort of like a sad sequence. You see Will on his bed watching him just slowly pass away, so that in the morning he does eventually pass. So Will's dad is officially dead in the movie. And in terms of John Lithgow's performance, I really do like his performances in terms of like being the disoriented patient that's got the Alzheimer's disease to then switching it to like being cured for a couple of moments while he's getting more intelligent. His interaction with Caesar just worked really well. So there was just like a nice blend with his performances that I really enjoyed, and was such a great addition to the cast. And so then Will tries to bribe the guard so that he could end up taking Caesar home, but Caesar actually rejects this. He doesn't want to go back home with Will. He ends up wanting to stay with the apes, and then during the night he actually goes and escapes, goes to Will's house to take the drugs that uses him to get clever, and uses it on all the apes. So he like busts the cans, smoke goes everywhere, all the apes end up getting more intelligent, and they end up getting the green eyes that makes them intelligent, and is what Caesar has in the first place. And so then you get this sequence where you've got Tom Felton's character going and confronting Caesar. He's in this play area once again. He's telling Caesar to go back. He starts tasing Caesar. Caesar grabs him by the arm, and that's when you get this iconic moment of Caesar talking for the first time, yelling no, shocking everybody. Like the reactions from the gorilla to the other security guard to Malfoy just was incredible, especially because you get that iconic line of Tom Felton saying, "Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape," which is one of the many iconic scenes you get in this trilogy. And so he ends up releasing all the apes. Tom Felton's character tries to go and tase all of them, but then Caesar kills him by using the water hose to electrocute the taser to electrocute Tom Felton's character, killing him off and sending the other security guard into the cage. And so all the apes end up escaping as we're getting towards that third act. So all the apes end up going into the laboratory. Will actually goes back to the control center where Caesar was, and that's where the security guard tells him that Caesar spoke. So he has to rush back to the lab to try and see what's going on. So they end up releasing all the apes, including Koba, and they start attacking all the humans. The CEO, boss guy, whatever he's called, Jacob, actually starts escaping through the helicopter, and that's when you get this amazing shot of these apes taking over the city. Like you see them on this train where Caesar's just standing there as the leader. You see them throwing these spears onto like these cars, and then of course you get them going on that famous bridge sequence, which honestly was just incredible with the shots that they had. You see the apes taking over, you see the police trying to stop them, you've got horses involved, you've got buses involved, you've got the helicopter trying to shoot down these apes, the apes going above into the cloud, into like the top of the bridge, then jumping onto the police officers. So there's just so many iconic and amazing shots and amazing moments in there that really just resonate with this movie and how iconic it is. What's amazing too is that you've got like shots like Caesar on a horse running towards these police officers. You've got the gorilla that was working with Caesar in the sanctuary sacrificing himself by jumping on top of the helicopter and crashing the helicopter. You get an amazing moment of Koba pushing the helicopter off of the bridge where Jacob ends up falling to his death. So that whole bridge sequence, probably my favorite moment of this whole movie, which I cannot praise it enough because of the cinematography, because of the action set pieces, because of just the way that everything was shot. I love that sequence there. And so then towards the end of the movie, the apes are all going into the forest, basically the forest that Caesar grew up with that 5-year Tarzan time jump sequence that you'd had in the beginning of the movie, and you've got Will following, and that's where you get an amazing ending to the movie where you've got Will trying to offer Caesar to go back home, trying to fix everything, and that's where you get Caesar going to Will, he is home, and an amazing just a way to end the movie where you've got now the apes living in the forest all together, all stronger, all more intelligent now, and closing off the movie because you've also got the post-credit scene of, as I mentioned, the pilot who got sneezed on by the other doctor with his blood on him. He ends up actually in the airport, he sneezes and you see blood dripping onto the floor. So that's setting up what's going to happen in the next movie, which we'll be talking about in the next video. But summing up the movie in just an incredible fashion, like I said, a really great movie, an amazing start to an amazing trilogy. I've said this so many times, but I feel like this trilogy is so underrated. Not enough people are talking about it. So hopefully more people do talk about it after watching Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But again, if you've seen the movie, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.